Uh, Good morning. We will have a case discussion today. A case of upper abdominal lump. To me, with me today will be Professor Gautam Das, who is Professor of Surgery at IPGM SKM Hospital. So, Dr. Das will conduct the session. Milind, you can start.
Yes. My patient, XYZ, age 35 years, male, salesperson by occupation, with residence in Kolkata, presented with chief complaints of abdominal swelling for the last 2 months. Now, my patient was apparently well 3 months back when he experienced an acute onset of epigastric pain, which lasted for a period of 10 days, was continuous in nature, was relieved on taking medication and sitting up, exaggerated on lying down, radiated from the front to the back, the abdomen, and it was associated with multiple episodes of vomiting and nausea. Now, the patient noticed a lump in his upper abdomen starting 2 months back, which was insidious in onset and was gradually increasing in size for a duration of 1 month. Has been constant and fixed in size for the last 1 month and is around 5 into 5 centimeter at the moment, as per his description, and is associated with intermittent dull aching pain for the last 2 weeks, which is relieved on medication, and it has no specific exaggerating factors. There is no history of fever, hematemesis melena. There is no history of significant weight loss, altered bowel habit, or any history of persistent nausea or vomiting. There is no history of abdominal trauma. There is no history of any repeated or long duration contact with domestic animals, or there's no history of clinical features, or there's no history of suggest of any type of allergy or such as persistent itching. Now, patient has a history of an episode of acute pancreatitis 3 months back, which resolved on conservative management, requiring 1 week of hospitalization. Patient is not a known diabetic, hypertensive, and is not hypothyroid. Also, patient has no history of undergoing any surgical procedure. Personal, no complaints of altered sleeping patterns. He has a normal mixed diet. Normal with respect to his bowel and bladder movements, normal frequency and normal stool consistency is being maintained. He has an occasional history of alcohol consumption present, but prior to his episode of acute pancreatitis, there is a history of excess alcohol intake. There is no significant family history. There are no known allergies present. With respect to the general survey, patient is conscious, alert, cooperative, has an average build, nutrition is normal. The ECOG 1 Karnofsky 90 is the performance status of this patient. His vitals are within normal limits. There is no evidence of pallor, cyanosis, jaundice, clubbing, and edema. No engorged neck veins noted. No significant lymphadenopathy noted. On the hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, it says carry on.
Oh yes, sir. You can hear me. Okay. Uh, So um, on abdominal examination, there is an on inspection there is an epigastric fullness noted with normal overlying skin with no clear definite borders noted, which is globular in shape with apparently moves with respiration, is around 4 into 5 centimeter. On leg raising test, it appears to be an intra-abdominal lump. Also, the umbilicus appears pushed slightly down. On palpation, firm. There's no local, there's no superficial tenderness, or there's no local rise in temperature. On further palpation, of firm lump is palpated in the epigastric umbilical region from 5 into 5 centimeter in size, globular in shape, rounded margins with a smooth surface with a tense cystic consistency, not moving up and down with the respiration, non-mobile and non-tender. Liver is palpated separately, spleen is not palpable, and no other lump is palpable. Now, with respect to auscultation, IPS bowel sounds are heard, and there's no any fluid fill or there's no fluid fill present. On systemic examinations, the bilateral the S1 S2 is heard by and bilateral air entry is present. And with respect to neurological examination, no specific abnormalities are found. So I would like to present a differential diagnosis as per the history and my examination of pancreatic pseudocyst, uh, simple cyst of the liver. It could be possibly hydrated cyst of the spleen. It could be a pancreatic neoplasm. It could be a mesenteric cyst, or it could be walled off necrosis.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Dash, we can start. Go back to history slide.
Yes.
Chief complaint. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Dr. Dash, can you hear us? I think he's traveling. Okay, so I can start.
Yes, sir.
I can start. Okay, so you
Yes.
started he presented swelling for 2 months.
Yes.
Go to history of present illness. You see, rightly you have started the history with the 3 months history of pain.
Yes.
And then in the past history, in the treatment history, I'm mentioning that he was admitted for acute pancreatitis. You
Yes,
should
sir.
keep that whole course of the pain and its outcome in history of present illness. Okay, so he was admitted, and then in the admission he said his history of multiple years of vomiting and nausea. And at the same
Yes,
time,
sir.
you mentioned that he was admitted in the hospital, he was treated conservatively and discharged on this day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Afterwards, he is noticing. Next slide.
Yes.
Next.
So the-
Afterwards, 1 month down the line, he started noticing this swelling.
Swelling.
Okay, so you take the history in that pattern.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Next.
So this is a negative history.
Yeah. So you see, in any history, what I always prefer is you have asked about the relevant fever, hematemesis, melena, but again, you should use one line. He has no other systemic complaint, because patient with a history of acute pancreatitis, a pseudocyst may have number of complications, and this pseudocyst may be located in different sites. Okay, so he might have subchest complaint. So just if you add one line, he has no other systemic complaints, means you have gone through the other systemic symptoms and try to find out those any other systemic symptoms. Okay,
Yes.
next.
Yes.
Next. So it doesn't go to past history. You see, past history. Past history. Go to, yes, 3 months does not go to past history. Clear?
Oh.
Because his symptom is for 2 months and the symptom date back to the onset of the 3 months history of pain. So here this episode of pancreatitis will not go to past history. We have taken this to the history of present illness.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Next.
Correct.
Next. Personal history always start with at least write this marital. He is married, his spouse and children, and then mention about other points. Okay.
Oh. Yes.
Next. Next. Dr. Dash, can you hear us? Dr. Dash? Okay, he might be traveling. Okay.
Yeah. He was showing connected, but
Karnofsky 90 performance status. What does it mean?
Sir, Karnofsky 90. Sir, it means that there is only limitation of strenuous activity. Like patient is able to carry out normal activities, but only there is minor signs or symptoms of the disease, like his swelling, like his intermittent pain. Like it is a perform.
You see, Karnofsky 90 means he can carry out all activities.
Yes,
and he has minor symptoms and signs of disease. You see, this patient who has
Yes,
got
sir.
an
Minus
episode
one.
of, if the patient has got an episode of pain, which is admitted earlier, now he's presenting with a lump in the abdomen, I wouldn't consider these as the minor symptoms. You see, patient
Hmm.
presenting with a lump in the abdomen should not be taken as a minor symptom. It should be
Okay.
taken as a major symptom. Okay, he has
Okay.
occasional pain. So it should be Karnofsky 80.
Okay.
Okay, next, next, next. You see, in abdominal
Hmm.
examination, uh,
Hmm.
don't confine yourself only to the lump examination. Okay, you start with the usual description of abdominal examination, shape of the abdomen, the umbilicus, skin of the abdomen, any movements in the abdomen, and then the lump. Clear? So you should not
Okay.
be confining only to the lump in examination of the abdomen. It should be a
Yes.
comprehensive abdominal examination. Okay,
Yes.
next. Same in palpation. Temperature of abdomen is normal. There is no
Hmm.
tenderness. Okay, and then you have mentioned about percussion and auscultation. And don't
Yes.
forget to mention about a particle examination, even if it is not done, you just mention that. Okay, next.
Oh,
Why did you
different.
skip the summary of the case?
Yes, sir. Somebody, sir. Yes, sir.
Summary,
That was
and in a background of this, it is not necessarily put a differential diagnosis. You see, it is easy in this patient to put a provisional diagnosis. The pattern you make is not differential diagnosis. In some scenario, you cannot make out a diagnosis at all, even a professional diagnosis, you can put a divisional diagnosis. But here you can have a background of acute pain, he is alcoholic, on the background of alcoholic pancreatitis, and then he is developing a lump. So you can
hmm.
easily put a provisional diagnosis.
Provisional. Okay.
So what is the provisional diagnosis?
Provisional
Summary?
diagnosis is
Yeah.
yes, 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 sir. So to summarize the case, my patient, a 35-year-old male,
That
presented
is,
with
I'm a
complaints of
gentleman.
35-year-old gentleman presented with a complaint of an abdominal lump for the last 2 months. His complaints were preceded by an episode of acute pancreatitis 3 months back.
Uh,
This abdominal lump um, is uh, this abdominal lump on examination is around 5 into 5 centimeter in size in the epigastric and umbilical region. It has a tensistic consistency. Tensistic surface is smooth with rounded margins and does not move up and down with respiration. And keeping this in mind, I have a provisional diagnosis of pancreatic pseudocyst.
And when you put a differential diagnosis, I always say that you put some diagnosis based on your finding in a particular situation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is cyst confined to the epigastrium, which is showing slight respiratory mobility. I don't think it's wise to put a diagnosis of mesenteric cyst in this situation. You put mesenteric diagnosis in the DD when there is a large cyst extending below the umbilicus. Okay, a cyst confined to the epigastrium uh,
Hmm.
is unlikely to be a mesenteric cyst. Okay, you
Okay.
should you
Yes,
should
sir.
first put a diagnosis of pancreatic pseudocyst and then come up with a true cyst in the pancreas. Cyst in you, because primarily you are thinking of a mass arising from the pancreas,
Yes, sir.
and then think of the pathology confined to the pancreas, and then yes, you may have pathology in the level of the liver, or can be retroperitoneum. Yes, okay. So put
So,
it provisional diagnosis. Why do you say this
oh,
patient has got a pancreatic pseudocyst?
so
What are
I
the
say
points?
because so the points in favor of pancreatic pseudocyst are so patient has most significantly has an episode of acute pancreatitis 3 months back. Generally, a pancreatic pseudocyst is which is a persistent collection, which is persistent for more than around 4 to 6 weeks after an episode of pancreatitis. So the duration of our history is also lending support to our diagnosis, because it has been 3 months, and also on examination, the the location the location of our lump in the epigastric and umbilical region is and not moving with respiration. It has a tense cystic consistency to it. Also, its smooth surface is smooth. It its lends are favor to the diagnosis of a pancreatic pseudocyst.
Dr. Dash, can you hear us? Dr. Dash, you unmute yourself. Dr. Dash, please unmute. Dr. Dash. Dr. Dash, you unmute. Yes,
Hello.
yes,
Hello.
yes, 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 yes. Actually, I know you cannot audio connected. So I have gone through his history part. So I have given some correction about his history. So
Yes,
he has given a provisional diagnosis of pseudocyst of pancreas. And then I asked him, why do you say pseudocyst? He has
yes.
justified the diagnosis.
Another point I want to emphasize that
Yeah.
here in present history of present illness, he told that this his illness starts 3 months back. Again, in past history, he told that 3 months back he has got up acute pain.
Yes, I
You have
told him.
to,
I told him
yeah,
to correct that.
yes,
Yes.
yes. That should be either one.
Yeah.
Either your history should start 3 months back. That should be included present history.
Yes,
Not
I marked that out. I told him you start the history in the history 3 months and don't take it to past history.
Yes, yes. Okay, proceed.
Yes.
Okay. So if you go by the Atlanta definition,
Yes, sir.
if you go by Atlanta definition, what do you mean by pseudocyst?
So a pseudocyst, it is a pseudo, or means it is a false cyst, because there is no proper epithelial lining of the cyst. It is this cyst is lined by fibrous tissue, and there is no proper epithelial lining. That's why we are calling it a pseudocyst.
What is acute fluid collection by Atlanta definition?
Yeah, acute fluid collection. Sir, when there is a collection around the pancreas following a pressure of acute pancreatitis, which is not related, where there is no necrotic tissue seen for a duration of less than 4 weeks. So we will call it an acute fluid collection.
So acute fluid collection is a peripancreatic fluid collection which is not walled off.
Which is not walled off. Yes, sir.
Okay. And when it gets walled off, after about 4 weeks, you call the pseudocyst. What do you mean by pancreatic necrosis in Atlanta definition? Because there is another term coming on, we walled off necrosis.
Yes, sir. So when there is an acute collection,
to be a pseudocyst, there must be a wall.
Yes,
but
sir.
That is not a epithelial tissue.
Yes, sir.
The wall differentiates it from the acute fluid collection. The wall is with granulation tissue, fibrous tissue like that, but not with epithelial.
Yes, sir. Sir, when there is necrotic debris present, necrotic material present,
where
with the collection around.
Try to make a difference. When you called off pancreatic necrosis,
yes, sir.
What is there in gross appearance?
Gross, sir, there might be parenchymal disruption.
Yes.
Or there may be peripancreatic fat disruption, or it may be only the peripancreatic fat disruption.
No, not fat disruption. No, it's not fat disruption. That is you mean that the pancreatic parenchyma,
yes, sir,
has undergone necrosis.
Yes, sir.
That is revealed by enhancement. There may be minimal peripancreatic collection or no collection. It's a pancreatic tissue necrosis.
Yes, sir.
So this is tissue necrosis, and then there may be peripancreatic inflammation.
Yes, sir.
And what do you mean by walled off necrosis?
Sir, when this necrotic debris and this collection around the pancreas, sir, it persists for a duration of greater than 4 weeks, then it organizes. So we call it to be a walled off necrosis.
So now if you want to differentiate between a acute pseudocyst and walled off necrosis, what is the difference?
Sir, it will have a regular lining. A pancreatic pseudocyst will have a regular lining, while it will be irregular in a wall of necrosis. Also, many necrotic debris and materials inside the wall of necrosis will be seen. But in a pancreatic pseudocyst, the walls will be regular, and generally there is no material detected separately inside the cyst. Also, sir, the wall of necrosis, so there might be might be infected, and if we culture it, sir, we might get bacteria. But generally,
No. They are not required. You see, both may be walled off.
yes,
Both may be smooth. But in walled off necrosis, if you go back to the earlier period, you can demonstrate pancreatic necrosis. In pseudocyst, there is no pancreatic necrosis. There is
No,
a peripancreatic fluid collection which later on
Huh.
become walled off.
Sure.
Okay, Dr. Das, you can continue. Dr. Das, you continue.
And on imaging, pancreas will be almost normal in case of pseudocyst.
Yes, sir.
But pancreatic necrosis, there will be damage.
Yes, sir.
Okay, continue.
Dr. Das, you can take the discussion through
Yes,
Hmm.
yes.
management part.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Das, you
Yes,
ask question. You ask question.
Okay. So you proceed to investigate.
Yes, sir. Sir, I will carry out certain investigations. First, I would like to confirm my diagnosis. So for this,
So
I-
clinically, you have a retroperitoneal cystic swelling, isn't that?
yes, sir.
Yes. Then proceed.
Yes, sir. So first I would like to perform certain radiological investigations and also some blood investigation. For radiological investigation, I would like to do firstly an ultra USG of the whole abdomen, and this would be, sir, followed by a CCT whole abdomen. So this will help delineate the pancreatic pseudocyst, and also for blood workup, I would like to do a complete blood count, a liver function test with including amylase, lipase, and this will give me an idea about my diagnosis. So then after this, I would also like to follow this up with an MRCP, because the pancreatic pseudocyst is the pancreatic pseudocyst is generally, it involves a pancreatic duct disruption. To exactly pinpoint to help pinpoint the site of disruption, I would like to carry out the MRCP to arrive at the diagnosis.
So what is the purpose of your investigation? What are the points you want to know
Yes, sir.
to proceed before proceeding towards treatment? So what will be your
Yes, sir.
target for investigation?
Sir, I would by investigating, I would like to exactly know the location of the pseudocyst. Whether it is at the head, near the head, or near the.
Yes.
Sir?
First, you have to confirm that it is cyst,
Yes,
walled
sir.
up cyst.
Yes, sir.
Then,
Yes, sir. First, I'll confirm the walled off piece, whether it's walled off necrosis or pancreatic pseudocyst. Then I would like to also find out the exact location. I
yes.
would like to find out the exact sir.
Why location is important?
Yes, sir. If so, for it, it will modify our intervention, because if, like, for example, if the
Yes.
location is in the head, so then our communication with the, for
Okay,
example,
understood.
the duodenum may be planned. If it is in the body or tail, we might
Yes.
plan a different intervention. If there are multiple pseudocysts, similarly, we will have to modify our intervention. So the location, the number of pseudocysts, also if there's any associated complications, if there's any features of any obstruction, if the pseudocyst is not clinically, but like if the pseudocyst is causing any obstruction, whether there is need to intervene immediately or not. Also, sir, by investigating, we should also rule out any pancreatic neoplasms. So
Yes.
we have to differentiate between pancreatic pseudocyst, walled off necrosis, and pancreatic neoplasms. So we can plan the further management. And also, we would like to know by investigation, we would like to know what association is there with the pancreatic duct, whether there is any ductal strictures are present, whether there is any cutoff from the duct, whether there was already in other cases we would like to know if there's chronic pancreatitis or not. Like was this acute on chronic pancreatitis? So accordingly our management will change. And also, sir, if there might be pseudocysts where there is no communication with the duct at all. So this will help us perform less invasive interventions. So we would like to know all this information.
Milind, one
Yes, sir.
DD, yeah, Milind, one DD is, you said, cystic neoplasm in the pancreas.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
How will you differentiate clinically and radiologically between a pseudocyst and a cystic neoplasm? Is there any clinical difference in behavior?
Sir, clinically, sir, we might take history of any endocrine deficiencies.
Endocrine deficiency.
Also,
Why? Why endocrine deficiency first? No?
so like,
Cystic neoplasm.
yes, sir.
Why do you expect endocrine deficiency?
So like any weight loss, there'll be a history of weight loss.
Start with the history. It
Yes,
may
sir.
not be preceded by an attack of pancreatitis.
Yes, sir.
Here you have a history of acute pancreatitis and then this lump has come up. Here there may be no history of acute pancreatitis. Patient may have Dalek. Okay.
Yes,
And
sir.
then examination finding may be same. Examination finding is difficult to differentiate.
Sure.
And then what is the other difference between a pseudocyst and if you do some investigations?
Yes, sir. Investigation, like if we do, sir, endoscopic ultrasound. So
Before that, ultrasound is a very high level investigation. Before that,
before that, USG in a CT scan, it will help. A pancreatic pseudocyst and a neoplasm will have a different appearance on imaging, and it will help us differentiate that.
any role
Like-
for doing a tumor marker like CA19-9?
Yes, sir. CA19-9, CA may be done, sir. It will be raised in a pancreatic neoplasm, while in a pseudocyst it might not be raised.
Yes.
It will not be raised.
Yes. So you have to take into account different aspects. Clinical behavior is different, radiological is different. Okay. And then intraoperatively there will be some different in finding the pseudocyst and the cystic neoplasm. Agreed.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Das, please.
What other investigation you may have to do to confirm, to differentiate from this cystic neoplasm of the pancreas?
Yes, sir. After
Any
the
minimal intervention?
yes, sir, after the USG, CCT, and MRCP, so we can
Yes.
Go for US endoscopy and US, where sir we might aspirate the content from the cyst,
Yes.
and we might send it for analysis, like for tumor markers, for amylase
What are-
lipase
what-
bica.
What are those? What
Sir,
are the
the tumor markers like CA19-9, CA, we might
C99
send,
will be not there in the fridge.
yes, sir.
What will be there in the fridge?
So
In case
CA,
of pseudocyst,
amylase, bicarbonate,
Amylase.
lipase.
yes, but in case of cystic neoplasm, what will be the
Yes.
marker?
Yes, so CA19-9. So these markers will be raised.
I think CA will be very high.
Yes, sir.
That is the differentiating point.
Yes, sir.
Okay, proceed.
Yes, sir. So and by US we can aspirate and check. Also, so then after these investigations, we may proceed like earlier, sir, when the MRCP was not so good. ERCP used to be done as a diagnostic and a therapeutic for diagnostic and simultaneously for therapeutic purposes. So if there's a simple cyst with no duct communication, but if there's a simple duct communication by just stenting, by ERCP first we used to locate the exact point of communication, and followed by, if we used to stent, it used to help in resolution of the pancreatic pseudocyst. And so with respect to further investigation, yes, so this is all for investigation point of view, sir. If you have to plan for surgery, so then the routine surgical workup will now come up, sir.
Okay, then what are the indications for surgical intervention?
Yes, sir. Now, for specifically for surgical intervention, sir, generally, if earlier they used to say it is more than 6 centimeter in size and is present for more than 6 weeks, we will proceed for surgical intervention. Otherwise, there are many complications also which might warrant an surgical intervention, where there's a persistently expanding pseudocyst, or the complications such as hemorrhage, or we suspect a rupture of the pseudocyst, or there are multiple pseudocysts. So this warrants an surgical intervention.
What other complications? What are the complications? But persistent symptoms, that is also
persistent symptoms. Yes, sir.
Persistent symptoms. And one common complication you may see in our setup, where the patient is neglected and a large cyst is there. There may be features of
ruptures of the peritonitis, disruption.
Yes, gastric outlet obstruction or any intestinal obstruction. That is also an indication.
Yes, sir. Or there's any sudden hemorrhage. Hemorrhage also may be a complication which may warrant intervention.
There are several other complications. There may be perforation also. Most common complication is infection. There may be infection and the patient it may come with abscess, pancreatic abscess.
Yes, sir.
Okay, continue.
Investigation. So now, sir, there was one discussion on the classification. So, like there's a Edigor system of classification. Now, over here, it has been classified as type 1, type 2, and type 3 pancreatic pseudocyst. The type 1 is where it occurs following an acute episode. Generally, in this type, there is no ductal communication, and there is like no history of chronic pancreatitis. Then, sir, there is the type 2, which is acute on chronic. So here's there might be ductal communications, and there is history of chronic pancreatitis, and there is generally ductal discommunication might be found. Otherwise, there is a type 3 where it occurs in chronic pancreatitis, where there is a ductal disruption is found, and chronic features of chronic pancreatitis are present.
Milind, what is the difference between an acute pseudocyst and a chronic pseudocyst?
So like acute and chronic. So generally in chronic pseudocyst, there will be features of chronic pancreatitis also seen. There will be pancreatic.
So by definition, this is not as per the time criteria. Okay. So usually you describe acute and chronic based on time criteria for different situations. But in terms of pseudocyst, a acute pseudocyst usually developed 6 to 8 weeks later when the acute feeling gets walled off. A chronic pancreatitis may develop early when it is associated with chronic pancreatitis. So it can be early presentation also. So a chronic pseudocyst is defined as a cyst in relation to the patient having features of chronic pancreatitis and patient developing a cystic lesion.
And usually basic pathological differences in case of chronic pancreatitis, usually there is a communication with the duct.
So he may have a ductal obstruction or ductal calculi. Yes.
And in case of acute pancreatitis, usually it is not communicating with the ductal.
Yeah, yes, sir. There's generally no.
Okay.
Okay.
So you said surgical intervention.
Yes, sir.
What are the intervention required in patient having a pseudocyst?
So specifically,
How pseudocyst resolves spontaneously?
pseudocyst, sir, majority of pseudocysts resolve spontaneously.
How?
Sir, um, sir, because sir, there is a generally there's a ductal communication. So
No,
the
you said
fluid,
the majority does not have ductal communication. How does it dissolves?
sir, like there is a local absorption of the fluid.
Yes, transperitoneal absorption.
Yes,
One
sir,
of the
transperitoneal.
common mode of dissolution is transperitoneal absorption of this fluid.
Yes,
That is
sir.
one. What
Yes,
else?
sir. Absorption of the fluid, sir. Then, sir, if there's a peritoneal,
Yes, it can rupture.
yes,
And
it
in
can
some cases,
rupture
it may not cause an acute symptom, but with
Hmm.
rupture, this can resolve. What else
Yes.
may be the resolution?
So also there's a ductal communication. It might resolve.
Ductal
If,
communication is
if like
one.
there's
Before
enteral
that,
communication, if there's any fistula develops, it
yes.
might drain through
So
the
it can be a
fistula tract.
spontaneous. It can be a
Fistula.
spontaneous coming in the internal organs. Okay,
Yes,
it can communicate with the small gut or to the stomach and undergo spontaneous resolution. So these are the ways a cirrhosis may resolve spontaneously.
Yes.
Okay, so if it is not resolving and the duct is there is a persistent cirrhosis at the end of 6 or 8 weeks, the size of 5 or 6 centimeter, you are planning for intervention. So
Yes.
what are the different modes of treating this cirrhosis? In this patient, what are you going to consider?
Yes, sir. So
You're in a good setup.
yes, sir. Sir, broadly, sir, we can classify as radiological, endoscopic, or surgical intervention. Now, firstly, the most minimally invasive form is the percutaneous drainage. Now, this is reserved for a very select cases where there is no communication found with the duct, and because if there is a communication with the duct, this mode has a high rate of failure.
What is the limitation? What is the limitation of percutaneous drainage?
Sir, there is recurrence of the cyst.
And this cyst
Also
often contains some
infection.
debris. This
Yes,
cyst
sir.
often contains a debris which cannot be evacuated by percutaneous aspiration.
Yes.
What are the indication of percutaneous aspiration?
So, if there is no ductal communication, or if the general condition of the patient is like very poor, with
And-
no other
and it is infected cyst.
infected cyst.
These are the indications. It's not usual to treat this mature cyst by percutaneous aspiration. There are some selected situations. What is the role of endoscopic drainage?
Yes, sir. Endoscopic drainage is now presently the most popular form, sir. Endoscopic now can be, we can simply, it can be internal or external. Like internally, we can simply stent the duct, the pancreatic duct via help of ERCP, which will result in the drainage. Or we can create an artificial fistula with the, for example,
What is endoscopic cystogastroscopy? How is
Yes, sir.
endoscopic cystogastroscopy done?
Endoscopic cystogastroscopy, sir, endoscopically, we puncture the stomach directly into the pancreatic pseudocyst, and we place a metal stent there. So all the collection of the pancreatic pseudocyst drains into the stomach, and it resolves over a period of 4 to 6 weeks.
So what is the limitation?
Yes, sir.
What is
So
the
the limitation is this stent might get blocked, and so there might be gastric collection in the pseudocyst itself, and then there might be
large
infection.
Large cyst, the dependent part may not drain well in endoscopic system because the opening is made very small.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you plan to do a surgical drainage?
Yes.
What?
For this patient, sir, I would prefer like you can try an endoscopic. Because if the size permits, we can go try an endoscopic drainage as the size as per the CT scan and MRCP. If it
Patient
is
has
too
come to
large,
surgical ward. You see, patient has come to surgical ward and you are planning for surgical intervention. What
Yes,
may be
sir.
your surgical intervention?
yes, sir. Sir, for surgical intervention, a gastrostommy, a cystogenostomy, or Roux-en-Y cystogenostomy is preferred, sir.
What? Open or laparoscopic?
Sir, sir, for now, minimally invasive techniques, so sir, laparoscopic is preferred over open surgery, or open surgery can also be done, sir.
Yeah. When will you consider cystogenostomy rather than a cystogastrostomy?
So cystogenostomy, I'll prefer that, sir. When sir, there is a very large cyst which where there are multiple cysts, or so depending on the location of the cyst. So when the cyst is not abutting the posterior wall of the stomach, if we
Cyst
find
not
that this
abutting, cyst is descending, cyst is going below towards the mesocolon, cyst
Yes,
coming
sir.
towards the pelvis.
Yes,
So
sir.
to provide a dependent drainage,
Yes, sir.
cystogastrostomy may not be adequate in all cases.
Yes, sir.
In that case, you have cystogenostomy.
Yes,
Cystogenostomy.
for cystogastrostomy, it must be the posterior wall.
Yes, sir, it must abut the posterior wall, then only it will be independent. Yes, sir.
Milind, mute कर दे यार. Milind, ask the patient to mute.
Yes, sir. Sir, somebody is.
Sorry, there is some disturbance. Milind, mute करो इसको.
Yes. Yes, sir. I'm. Sir, one second, sir.
Yes, Steve. Mute करो.
Sorry, sir. Somebody participants.
Yes.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes,
muted,
sir.
sir.
Mute.
I
Sir.
muted them, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Carry on. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Milind, you said this patient has got an alcoholic pancreatitis leading to the complication.
Yes, sir.
What may be the other causes of pancreatitis which may lead to such cirrhosis formation?
Yes, sir. Other causes of like this is the for with respect to only pancreatitis. So now pancreatitis may be due to other causes, maybe gallstone disease, may to the dyslipidemia, or sir, on the other hand, it may be following a trauma also.
Yes.
Like there are cases of pancreatic pseudocysts seen
Yes.
following trauma, and sir, yes, sir, following trauma and.
So in this, if I give a scenario now, this patient has got an acute pain and there is no history of alcoholism, and then you find patient has got associated gallstones.
Yes, sir.
So patient having gallstones coming with acute pancreatitis, what should be your approach for management? Because in acute setting, I'm not telling that patient develops a cirrhosis in the same time. I'm telling patient having a gallstone disease presenting with acute pancreatitis. What is the approach in such situation? Because patient come to with acute pancreatitis.
Sir, I would prefer a conservative mode of management. I would like to manage the pancreatitis first. I would wait. I would give supportive care so that the acute episode of pancreatitis resolves, and later on, I would, sir, later on I would work up the patient for cholecystectomy after a good interval of 1 to 2 months.
No, no, no. Why has pancreatitis developed in a patient having gallstones?
Sir, because there's dislodgement of the stones from the gallbladder. It has gone into the CVD and most probably blocked.
So you're not addressing that? You're not addressing, you're saying you'll wait and then go for cholecystectomy later on. Because this is a situation whereby the stone may be there in the bile duct or it can
Yes.
be passed out stone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, number one.
Yes.
Number two, it can be a stone in the bile duct which is not impacted. Or it can be a stone in the bile duct which is impacted. The management will vary. Patient having a acute pancreatitis and you are finding that no demonstrable stones are there in the bile duct, the treatment is conservative. And once the pancreatitis resolves, when do you consider doing cholecystectomy in this patient? Got my first scenario? patient has got pancreatitis.
Hmm.
There is no demonstrable CBD stone,
Hmm.
but patient has severe pancreatitis and patient has got gallstones.
Hmm.
And you are treating the patient conservatively. What is
Hmm.
the next plan of management in this scenario?
Sir, after it resolves, we'll later on, after a good interval, 4 to 6 weeks, we'll do an MRCP, sir. And
After 6 weeks, you'll do MRCP. Is that the standard line of treatment for gallstone pancreatitis? For gallstone pancreatitis, you should
yes, sir.
exclude a CBD stone. Once the pancreatitis resolves, you exclude CBD stone, and the standard teaching is you consider lab cholesterol in the same sitting, in same admission.
Same admission.
Because if you discharge the patient, this patient come back with a recurrent pancreatitis. Okay. Now think of a situation. If I ask you now, what is the indication of ERCP in patient who is coming with gallstone pancreatitis?
Indications of ERCP, sir, generally in the acute setting, sir, generally if there is a stone found in the bile duct, so
You see, routinely a small bile duct stone does not warrant going for ERCP. This is indicated if you find there is an impacted stone
Yes.
where the pancreas is unlikely to resolve. So you can wait. If you find patient has got an impacted stone, then that is a situation where if you do ERCP, this pancreas is resolved early. Because yes, ERCP has its own complications. If you do ERCP, the pancreas may aggravate. So,
But Milind,
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Can you tell what is the commonly accepted hypothesis for formation of the or pathogenesis of the gallstone pancreatitis?
So the pathogenesis, sir, I'm aware, sir, that this dislodgement of the stone from the gallbladder, which then
Yes.
goes to the
It
CBD, which goes to the bile
Yes.
duct and may block or may block the pancreatic duct, or may be impacted, leading to dilation and blockage of the pancreatic duct.
What is common channel? Do you know? What is common
No, sir.
channel?
No, sir, I've not gone through the
Actually,
literature, sir.
there is a different. There is some variations in the opening of the pancreatic duct and bile duct.
Yes, sir.
And if they fuse earlier, that is called, there is formation of a long common channel. If there is a long common channel, the stone will maybe discuss there, blocking the both.
Okay, sir.
But if there is a very short common channel, usually it can obstruct the bile duct, but may not obstruct the pancreatic duct. If there is a long common channel, it will obstruct the pancreatic duct also, and there will be a back pressure, and subsequent formation of the pancreatitis.
Yes, that is because of reflux of bile into the pancreatic duct. Okay.
Yes.
So this stone may be a impacted stone or even a pass out stone. A stone may transiently block the ampulla and then pass out and can cause pancreatitis. Okay.
Okay.
So keep in mind that if you are treating a patient of gallstone pancreatitis and patient has not developed a pancreatitis related complications, the lab police should be done in same admission.
Okay.
Okay. Any question from the participants? Any question? Dr. Acharji? Dr. Acharji, any question? I think Dr. Acharji is there, na?
Yeah. Anadida?
Yes, yes.
Oh, কোথায় দেখিনি তো, দেখতে পাচ্ছি।
ছিল। Milind, Dr. Acharji is there?
Yes, sir, he is there, sir. He is there.
Yeah, Dr. Acharji, any question or comment?
Samay, my corrections seem to have been jeopardized somehow.
Okay.
Coverage was excellent. you have mentioned almost all the aspects of the pancreatic cirrhosis. The one thing, just to make a comment, possibly you have told me that also. Yeah, while doing a pancreatic pseudocyst enteric bypass, be it stomach or jejunum or whatever, one must be very, very cautious about one thing, and that is whether the cyst is septated or not. If by any chance you miss a septa, the cyst is bound to recur. So that is one point I just want to mention. Because there have been cases, particularly while doing cystogastritis by laparoscopy, that somehow the surgeon missed a septa, a residual small cyst was there, and the patient came back with complications of that residual cyst. So that is one point I want to stress. Thank you.
Dr. Maiti?
Sure.
Dr. Maiti?
Sir, Dr. Maiti is not here, sir. Maiti sir is not here. Sir.
Okay. Dr. Deepak has asked one question. What is the difference between acute cirrhosis and walled-off necrosis? We answered it already. So what is the difference, Milind?
Yes, sir.
Difference between a walled-off necrosis and a acute pseudocyst?
Now, acute pseudocyst occurs following an episode of acute pancreatitis. Now, this collection around the pancreas.
Both occur following pancreatitis. What is the difference? Both occur following acute pancreatitis.
Walled-off necrosis, there will be necrosis, parenchymal necrosis.
Yes.
And this there will be necrotic debris present in the cyst. And in acute pseudocyst, we generally do not find any necrotic debris.
There may be some debris. You see, even in acute pseudocyst, you may have debris. But basic difference is, in acute fluid collection, there is no associated pancreatic necrosis. There is acute fluid collection, which is later on become walled off.
Yes, sir.
And in walled off necrosis, there is evidence of pancreatic necrosis in the first episode of pancreatitis. How do you diagnose pancreatic necrosis?
CT scan is
what in CT scan? What in CT scan is taken to diagnose? Yes, this patient has got pancreatic necrosis, and you can assess the degree of necrosis, how much there is, because based on this you will have the CT severity index coming up. How do you say in CT?
So there is air, and
before that,
gas found.
Before air. You see, I'll answer. If you're doing a contrast CT scan, the pancreatic parenchyma has got enhancement. Okay. If there is a normal vascular supply to the pancreatic tissue. So once you are giving this contrast, and then that some areas of pancreas not enhancing, that means the contrast is not being taken to that area is avascular. So that is the area of necrosis. So based on the area of non-enhancement, you calculate the total pancreatic volume and try to find out how much area is now non-enhancing. So it's a non-enhancing area in the pancreatic parenchyma, which is suggestive of the pancreatic necrosis. And how do you calculate CT severity index in acute pancreatitis? Because we can grade the pancreatitis severity based on the CT scan finding.
Yes,
what does it take into account?
I'm not, so I cannot recall the exact.
Okay. So the CT severity index takes into account the Balthazar grading and the necrosis score. Balthazar grading is given a score between 0 to 4. Based on, if it is a normal pancreas, it is 0. If it is just a edematous pancreatitis without extrapancreatic fluid collection, it is 1. There is pancreatic inflammatory changes with peripancreatic single fluid collection, it is 2.
Good morning, sir. Sir, আমাদের ওই class চলছে, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, sir. So আমাদের ওই MR বাঙ্গুরে যে class হয়.
Okay. Then if you go to the Balthazar grading, you take the necrosis score. So if the necrosis score is less than 33%, the score is 2. If it is 33 to 50%, the score is 4. And more than 50% necrosis, the score is 6. So based on this, you add up the Balthazar grading score and the necrosis score. That gives you CT severity index. So more than 7 score is a very severe type of pancreatitis if you take the CT severity index. Okay.
Now, proceed to treatment shortly. Do you prefer open approach in this case or laparoscopy?
Sir, laparoscopic approach, sir, is preferred. Sir, it helps in earlier recovery, and I would prefer the laparoscopic approach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us the steps in brief.
So the laparoscopic approach, sir, exact. So I would like, can I sir just say the open approach, sir, steps, the laparoscopic.
Yeah, Dr. Dash has asked you laparoscopy approach. So first tell me the anesthesia and the position of patient.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the patient will be in a supine position under general anesthesia. After that,
No, you're not completing the position. I am not happy because this is done in a different approach. It's not only supine. Where the surgeon will stand.
so at the head end, sir.
Surgeon is in the head end. How can you operate? Surgeon stands in between legs.
Left, in between legs.
So it's supine with leg apart position. Okay, it is easier to operate on the upper abdomen in the pancreatic area if you stand in between legs. Okay, it is difficult to operate if you're on the one of the side. Okay, so it will be a supine with leg apart, and then you go by standard neoperitoneum.
And what about tilt?
Yes, why do you measure ports for operating in the upper abdomen side? Suppose you are doing the gastric operations or pancreatic operations. What are the standard port placement? So you have to read it.
Yes, I'm not. Yes, I have to read it.
So it says below umbilicus will be the or above umbilicus will be the camera port, and on either side the rectus sheath, in the mid clavicular line you can make 2 ports, working ports, and if you need a retraction you can need another port on the left side. Okay, and then the standard operation is you have to make an anterior gastrotomy.
Yes.
And after that you made a posterior gastrotomy, which will be a common wall between the stomach and the cyst wall, and then take a wedge of tissue out from the posterior cut, and then you drain, you suck the content, lavage, and stitch. You pass running sutures between the cut margin of the cyst and the stomach, and then you close the anterior gastrotomy. So that is a standard laparoscopic cystogastrostomy. Okay.
Ideally, there are 2 additions you may have to tell in your exam that you have to send for the Frozen section. The posterior wall will be sent for Frozen section to exclude any epithelial tissue there, to exclude any cystic neoplasm of the pancreas. And also you may aspirate the fluid and send for biochemical assay as previously mentioned.
Yeah.
And as this opening is small in case of laparoscopic approach, not like the open procedure, and it may be difficult to make a large hole and suture it. Some surgeons prefer to put 2 stents, 2 pigtail catheter within the cavity, so that it may then continuously for some period. There is also some recommendation for that.
Milind, what is the treatment for cystic neoplasm of pancreas? Treatment for cystic neoplasm?
So cystic neoplasm, I go for a Whipple's procedure.
Whipple's.
Whipple's.
That depends on the location of the cyst.
Yes, sir.
So it should be some resectional surgery. The answer should be it should be resectional surgery. It's not that you drain a cystic neoplasm. So that depends on the location of the cyst.
Commonly, local resection is enough, not like adenocarcinoma.
Yeah. Okay. Any question from any of the participants?
And laparoscopy, in this procedure you have mentioned that you have to do a anterior gastrostomy. Is there any procedure, though rarely done or mentioned in the books, without doing anterior gastrostomy by laparoscopy?
No, sir, I'm not aware, sir.
There is another approach through the lesser sac, near the epiploic foramen, passing this P border, and through the gastrocolic momentum. And you have to make like anastomosing this, you have to have a stapler. Like you anastomose with two intestines.
Yes,
Like
sir.
that, you have to make one opening on either side of the cyst and the stomach and place a stapler and then close it like this enterotomy. There is another procedure described in the books.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Milind. Good presentation. You should correct your presentation
Yes, sir, I'll
points.
correct the mistakes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
and make a
Yes, sir.
summary. You can make a summary
sir.
at the end of history also.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Milind.
Thank you, sir.
Milind, what case is there in Bagayuddin? Milind, Utili?
Sir, yes, sir, one coli, sir, and one hernia, sir.
Okay, I'm coming. Just come. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dash. Thank you very much.
I have to proceed for a whipples today.
Wait, fine. Carry on. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Gautam.
Thank you.